Hello, this is Jonathan Williams with ALECtv here at the ALEC annual meeting in beautiful Salt Lake City. Today we have Senator Jim Buck, a great friend of mine, longtime ALEC member, board of directors member, to talk a little bit about a state that works. Indiana, his home state, and a state that's improved dramatically over the first the 14 years of the Rich States, Poor States report. So Senator, you've been just such a long-time ALEC stalwart. Indiana has improved dramatically. Let's start big picture. Indiana's moved from 24th place about a decade ago to now number 6 in Rich States, Poor States for economic outlook. What's the secret sauce to Indiana? How did you guys do it?
Pretty simple. It's obeying ALEC principles. It's the tried and true. Don't spend what you don't have. Go in debt as least as you can. Make sure that you got a viable economy and look for opportunities for growth wherever you can. And we were very fortunate that we had a governor come on board. His name was Mitch Daniels, and he was known as the Blade when he was working for W. And so when he came to Indiana, he set out a good course for Indiana. One, he knew that we were awash in debt, that we were 5 years behind in road funding, and so he looked around to see what assets Indiana had. And one of the first things he did, he leased the toll road. That toll road had been a millstone around Indiana's neck for many decades. He leased that thinking we might get $2.8 billion. Instead, when we opened it, it was $3.725, I believe it was. And we were able to use that to pay off not only the toll road debt, but other debts, put us on a path for infrastructure growth. He set us on a path to reduce taxes. Fortunately, we're a flat tax state, but even though we're a flat tax state, we still weren't in a position to compete against other states. And so his goal was to set us on a course that we could eventually reach 2.9%. We've got a trigger that allows that to happen. So he was the impetus for Indiana looking towards what we can do to become a better state. Then we had a young man come on board by the name of Mike Pence. And Mike Pence was a former congressman, a good stalwart for Indiana. And he wanted to continue what he referred to as the next step. And so he set about putting a lot of the programs that Mitch Daniels had put in place and making them stronger, to the point where Indiana then started climbing. One of our biggest concerns was what we were going to do with a state that was not a right-to-work state. That was one of the things that was holding us back on Rich States, Poor States. And so that was, for Indiana, that was a real hard struggle, because Indiana is a very industrialized state. We have a lot of unions. But we tried to show the positives. In fact, some of the unions that I talked to, I said, I think you're going to find this will empower you, because instead of being viewed as a union boss, they're going to start viewing you more as a partner, because they know they can take their union dues and walk, or they can pay you if you're doing your job. So with right to work, that put us up in a good standing. Next, we had Mike Pence's Lieutenant Governor, Eric Holcomb. When Mike was tapped to be Vice President, Eric stepped in. And he wanted not only to take us to the next step, but he wanted to show that Indiana was a state that works. And true to that, Indiana's growing. We've established Indiana's Economic Development Corporation, which keeps tabs on areas that we're great on. Mitch Daniels put in place a program where we could identify areas that were ideal for site selectors. And I had dubbed it site ready. He called it shovel ready, and that's all right.
Shovel ready got a bad name a little bit later on during the shovel ready project, so we all know we're anything but.
Yeah, but what turned out to be that people came to Indiana once again because in the 80s we were in everybody's sites to locate, and that all changed during the 90s. But We've gotten that back where Indiana's a growth state now. For the first time in many, many decades, Indiana now has a net population growth. And we are such a low cost of living state. We're having people move in from all over the country. Obviously, all the blue states are coming, people fed up with high regulations, high taxes, high cost of living. And people can't get over how friendly Indiana is. But it's all focused and based upon doing the sound economic principles that we always talk about here at ALEC in tax and fiscal. And as you know, when I chaired that, we always said, if this task force gets it right, all the other task forces have the opportunity to get it right. And that still holds true, whether the federal government or state governments, if they get their fiscal and tax issues correct, all the others fall in line. But if you mess that up, you've messed it all up.
Well, and it's a great point because you've been one of the very most successful task force chairmen in the history of ALEC in your 4 years as tax and fiscal,
thank you.
and took so many of those good ideas back to Indiana because you cut the business, the employer income tax, the personal income tax, became a right to work state. You made big progress on pensions and other debt issues. Let's talk a little bit about the region though. As a Michigan native myself, Indiana ate Michigan's lunch after becoming a right to work state. And I will say, I think it's safe to say that Michigan would not have become a right to work state unless Indiana became a right to work state first. But in terms of the Great Lakes region, Illinois are all of our best economic development partners in the region because of spinning off all the jobs and the individuals moving out of Illinois. Otherwise though, the Great Lakes region with Scott Walker in Wisconsin and his reforms, with Michigan reforms, has become much more competitive in the last decade. How is Indiana going to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to all those states trying to catch you there in the region?
Keeping your eye on the end goal. If we can make it right for Indiana residents, we're going to make it right for anybody else in the region, and they're going to notice it. In the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, they have a map of Indiana and the adjacent Midwest states. We've got little red dots all along our border, and it shows on a current basis all of these employers that are moving into Indiana. I can give you an example of a lady that I know. Her and her husband bought a property. They lived in Chicago, and they moved to Indiana, bought a bigger house, great location. Property taxes alone, they saved $10,000 a year by moving from Chicago to Indiana. Now that's $10,000 cash. That's not $10,000, that's more than $10,000. People in the Midwest have caught on to Indiana as to what we're doing. Employers are looking to Indiana because they know we're a stable economy. Michigan, nice state, but they're not so convinced it's stable yet. And same way in Ohio. Illinois, God help the people that are in southern Illinois, because northern Illinois is just causing them a nightmare.
Well, they're stable already in Illinois. They're just stable at the bottom, unfortunately, right?
They're not moving, but we've got a lot of competition from Kentucky, Tennessee. It's been interesting to visit with those governors in Tennessee and in Georgia. The former governor, not Georgia, but Kentucky, they were all looking to Indiana, what we're doing. They said, we're paying attention to what you guys are doing, because what you're doing is working. It was interesting in Kentucky at that time, said we know we're behind, but we know the plan to catch up. So that's the beauty of states and federalism, is it's a laboratory of each other trying to figure out how can we make what will work for one another's constituency, and if we can steal the idea, great, because they're going to steal ours, but it's all to the betterment of the citizens of our states. and it's exciting to be a process.
Well, it sure is, and as the great Ronald Reagan would say, there's no limit to what you can accomplish in this world if you don't care who gets the credit.
Yeah, I've got that on my desk.
And Indiana's given a lot of good ideas to a lot of us around the states, and just wanted to thank you for your leadership and your great friendship and mentorship over the years.
Jonathan, you do a wonderful job. Proud of you.
I appreciate it. Indiana, folks, the state that works, one of the biggest winners in the 14 editions of Rich States, Poor States, moving up from middle of the pack to number 6 now, overall economic outlook. For ALECtv here at Salt Lake City at the annual meeting, this is Jonathan Williams and Senator Jim Buck.